Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Laura Aural, psychic medium and a medical intuitive, and I'm here back to do the continuation of our Q&A, the geopolitical Q&As. I've got Mishka in the background. He had a little sleep, so he's just getting comfortable again. I like it when he hangs out with me when I do this. He's actually got beautiful energy when he's not annoying me. Anyway, I'm back here doing the Q&As, and I'm going to do it a little bit different. So I did the first part of it. I think I answered about 13 questions or so live in my impromptu live. There's probably about 35, 40 questions, and I'm going to do it a little differently with a couple of them because some of them are actually a little just I had a feeling to go a little bit deep on a couple of them, so I might just split them up and see how I go with this one. And so I'm just going to do this one and give a bit of an extended response. And it kind of aligns with some of the things that I've been feeling generally. And that's in relation to some of the questions that are coming out from the Canadians, from Canada, the followers that are watching from Canada. And so I'm going to start with the question here. And what I did was I did a little bit of research, and I'm going to give my feeling and match my feeling with what I've been under. Excuse me, I've gone a bit hoarse. I've gone a bit cat. Okay, so the question is from DLAM 5456. Hi Laura, love the Q&As, thank you. What is the Memorandum of Understanding on Security that Prime Minister of Canada signed with China? And I'm going to read through some of this before I give my feeling, because I noticed in some of my previous predictions, I've been feeling things are being more scrutinized and people are being held to account. And I think it has something to do with this as well. So actually, something compelled me to just go research it a little bit, just to get some point form. So I'm going to read through the point form, and I'm going to give my feeling on it. So the Memorandum of Understanding, what is it? It's a formal agreement signed between the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and China's Ministry of Public Scrutiny. And the goal is said to work together to fight global crime, specifically targeting cyber fraud, money laundering, illegal drug trafficking. What it allows, it sets a framework for both countries to share investigative data, provide policing assistance, and exchange technical training. The secret, the text of the agreement is strictly confidential, and the Canadian government and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police state that they cannot legally publish this agreement without Beijing's permission. So they've actually gone into a silent agreement behind closed doors, and they've actually created this memorandum of understanding between the current administration in Canada and China. Now, there is backlash according to this. It's the backlash and critical concerns are around extreme secrecy. Critics are furious that policing agreements with a major authoritarian state were signed behind closed doors and hidden from the public view. Legitimizing foreign aggression, opponents are arguing that this deal will accidentally legitimize China's illegal activities inside Canada. That's interesting. Weaponizing intelligence. There's a high anxiety. Not sure why my voice has gone a bit hoarse here. Excuse me. There's a high anxiety that China will twist the shared Canadian information to hunt down peaceful political dissidents. And ignored evidence. The agreement was signed despite clear court evidence showing that China operates actively harassing permanent Canadian residents. Now, who's demanding answers? The opposition politicians, human rights advocates, such as the Hong Kong Watch, and some vulnerable communities like the Uyghurs and so forth. they're accused of spying of Chinese citizens. Now, I don't know if this is in relation to being accused of having these hidden Chinese police departments throughout Canada, and it's their way of actually. There's just talk that this is actually happening in Western countries, and I believe Australia, the US, Canada, it's all been said that there are these secret Chinese police stations that are around the country, and they're doing it as a form of actually spying on their Canadian citizens of Chinese origin. And that's the way to actually bring anyone who perhaps will speak ill of China, bring them into line and bully them. That's what they're being accused of. So the Canadian fear, the core of the anger is that Canada's government is being accused of handing over data to a foreign power that is actively spying on and intimidating people living in Canadian soil. Pierre Poilievre and his Conservative Party is strongly against this secret Chinese Canada policing. And what Pierre's doing and the Conservatives are doing about it is explicitly promising that the Conservative government will put Canada's national security and sovereignty first by cutting ties with agreements that compromise them, while the immediate focus is on his party is forcing the current government to release the secret document. And so that's what they're trying to do. So in relation to what I've actually brought up previously, I remember that I expressed that Pierre Poilievre is behind the scenes, and they're really doing a lot of digging and investigating, and they're going to try to do a lot of exposing. Now, I can see that this would be in relation to that as well. There may be other areas. I do feel that Pierre is very serious about his promises in keeping this, and him and his Conservative Party are genuinely concerned about it, is what I'm feeling. And I really do feel that they're actually doing a lot. And I feel like they're trying to do a lot legally as well to see what legal footing. And I'd mentioned it in a previous video that they're basically preparing themselves from day one, that if they were to win the next election, which I basically have predicted that they will. I'm not quite sure whether Poilievre will be the one who actually becomes Prime Minister, but we'll see further down the track with that. Initially, I felt no, but I'm not quite sure still on that. But I feel that they will be doing things to reverse these policies. But in saying that, I do feel that your current administration, led by Carney, is really pushing a lot of things, trying to push a lot of things through. And even though they don't seem to have a lot of power, they are yielding a bit of power or a bit of influence. They're able to influence the votes still. And yes, they are losing their influence, but they still have quite a bit of influence happening. So they're going to start to push policies through or combat things as well. I feel like they've got a lot to hide, and they're really trying to, they're working double time and kind of trying to protect some things, not to be mishandled, and perhaps to secure things for themselves. Yeah. So that was in relation to that question. I know it was a little bit of a long-winded response, but I kind of had a feeling that I wanted to go a little bit deeper with that one, because I had been getting a sense that there is some things that are going to start to be exposed, and I feel this will be one of them. The feeling that I've got here is data. The data collection is a very big concern. What they've done, I feel like they've got a very good data collection that they've actually harvested. And thanks to your current government and our current government here in Australia, I feel that they're really doing that well. And it's not just on Chinese Canadian citizens or Chinese Australian citizens. I feel it's basically on most citizens, or if not all citizens. So that is that question there. All right, so I'm going to keep reading, and next time I come to another one, I might sort of expand on. I'm just going to mark that I've completed this one. And I'll continue on with the questions. Okay. This is from Curiosity. I think I may have read this one. Future taxation system. Which states in the USA are going to be best for tax exempt? Oh, okay. I feel from the news that I've been watching, why I haven't actually, I need to catch up a little bit. From the news that I've been watching, I know that they're trying to eliminate quite a few taxes, the current administration, and even some of the governors. And I think Ron DeSantis in Florida is trying to remove, I don't know if it's income tax or one of those taxes as well. So I feel Florida may be one of those places. I feel Ohio as well will potentially be one of those places because you've got Vivek Ramaswamy that's going to be running for governor there. And I feel his policies are going to be very aligned with the Trump administration. In fact, I actually feel that Vivek is going to win Ohio, is what I feel, and he's going to be working very, very strongly and closely with the Trump administration, implementing a lot of those policies across the state. Yeah, Vivek, I feel, is going to be very, very focused on creating wealth for that state, working in underprivileged areas, and really bringing an influx of, I feel like, manufacturing into the state as well. So I feel Ohio is going to be a good place to look out for. I feel Florida is going to be a good place to look out for. Yeah, they're the two things that are sort of standing out in my mind at this point. Okay, thanks for your question. And let's move on to the next question. This is from Tracy Lyon. Hi, Laura. Who do you think is likely to win November's election in New Zealand? And will New Zealand ever leave the Commonwealth? I just got no, they won't leave the Commonwealth. Now, I think you currently have a Conservative government. I'm just going to just quickly have a look. Because I think you currently have a Conservative government. But I feel the current government isn't really doing much. I feel like they're kind of stagnant. I feel like they're not really doing much. They're just kind of riding the wave. I don't know why. Let's have a look here. Just asking, who is the current PM in New Zealand? Which party do they belong to? Okay, Christopher Luxon. Let me just see his photo. I'm just looking at his photo, his image. He seems like a nice chap, but when I'm tuning into his image, when I'm tuning into his energy of his image, I don't know, there's something around him that I'm feeling. I just want to ask if there's any corruption claims against him, because I'm actually feeling there's some kind of corruption claims against him. No. Okay. His coalition government has fast faced prominent political criticism. Okay, about transparency. Oh, okay, about the development application processes raised over hold on sole authority approved infrastructure projects. So 7th of November is the next election. Okay. I asked, why is his party slow on delivering the agenda? This was my feeling, and policies that they are being accused of doing nothing. His party is actively being accused by the opposition and political commentators of sluggish policy delivery. Okay, a lack of clear vision and general inability to get things done. Rather than doing nothing, the government's perceived paralysis stems from structural bottlenecks, political gridlock, and deteriorating economic condition. Okay, so sorry about that, because I'm not too familiar with your politics there in New Zealand. So when I have a look at him, He actually seems like a nice, just visually, he seems like a nice person. Um, and so the feeling of the claims were probably more around his party than himself. And so the feelings that I was getting that is a bit sluggish, they're basically saying here it's in relation to some political gridlock and deteriorating economic conditions. Now, in saying that, I actually feel there's going to be somebody more youthful than him come through. Um, that's going to make some big promises, but I feel it could be from the opposing party. I feel like there may be somebody more youthful and vibrant coming through from the opposing party, and they may be making some promises. Whether they're going to keep those promises, I don't know. Now, they're saying here that he's polling a bit slow, but he still has the potential to win. I actually do feel I'm being told that his government will stay in power. Um, yeah, I'm getting a lot of just really not doing much, and but I'm not seeing it as gridlock per se. I just feel that they're not actually pushing things as well. I don't know why they're writing on things, but I feel like there's some kind of hidden agenda underneath that's being negotiated, and I'm not quite sure what it is. But I'm going to just go out on a limb and just say what I'm feeling, what's coming to me, is something to do with land rights. So if there's a gridlock, it's something to do with land rights, and there's there's some kind of battle going on about land rights for you guys there, and I don't know if that's what they're gridlocked with. Um, Okay, the government has experienced severe gridlock and political chaos regarding Maori land rights in the Treaty of Waitangi. Is it Waitangi? Rather than standard infrastructure bottlenecks, the land rights gridlock has manifested as massive socio-political collision over customary titles, treaty definitions, and race relations. Okay, this is making sense now, which has deeply fractured the three-party coalition and stalled the wider legislative agenda. Okay, it's making sense for me now. Um, it is making sense for me now. So, okay, my predictions on this is I feel like this man's a very intelligent man. I feel like he's a thoughtful man and he's not quick. He's not actually quick in making decisions either. He's actually more thoughtful. And I feel like he's more of a chess player when he's actually wanting to make decisions. Now, there's something there that they are actually locked into, and I feel like they're looking at it legally behind the scenes to see of a way out because it seems like there's a lot of land that's been taken over that's being, and this is just the feeling that I'm getting. I don't quite know the history, so my feeling could be off here or maybe off center. But what I feel is if they were to win another term, they're actually going to be a little bit more aggressive with their policy. I feel like they've actually done that. So if they've appeared to be more stagnant, it is because they are locked in a lot of areas. And so I feel like they're actually behind the scenes in trying to jimmy the locks almost in different areas. And I feel like him and some key members of his administration are actually quite smart in trying to work some things out. I don't feel that they'll necessarily be successful too quickly, though. In fact, there's going to be more of a fight for them for Maori land, for taking more Maori land, if that's making sense, and if I'm actually sensing that accurately. So I'm going to leave that there. But this is what I'm wanting to do with some of these questions because I may not be familiar with some of these places, and rather than just give a superficial response, I'm just wanting to go a little bit deeper for some of these questions. So I'll move on to the next one. That was from Tracy. So thank you, Tracy. This is from Caroline. Hello, Laura. Thank you for answering these questions. I live in British Columbia, Canada. Currently, there's a massive land title issue Aboriginal title versus fee simple title. Do you see this issue resolving itself with our next Premier, and do you still see Conservative Premier in the next future? I'm worried that foreign entities like China want to capitalise on our resources. I actually feel like you spot on the money there, and it's really interesting that these questions are coming up. So what I'm actually seeing is there are some things that are happening concurrently with Canada, with Australia, with New Zealand. And I feel as New Zealand actually, it's been happening in New Zealand long before we've noticed it here in Australia. Maybe just heard snippets of it long before we started to feel the effects of it happening here in Australia. I feel like it's been happening in Canada longer than it has been in Australia as well. And that's because you've had the Trudeau government in power for quite some time. And so they have been relinquishing the actual title to Indigenous. And so how I understand what's happened here in Australia, for example, is it's going to be federal land that they stake a claim on. And there's a big backlog in these claims. There's an influx of claims going through. So it may be the same that's happening there. Now, from what I'm understanding from the research that I did for Australia, and I'd say it would be like, I'm guessing, I hazard to guess, that it would actually be similar to Canada and similar to New Zealand. And so once this Crown land has been, the applications are submitted to claim, and that goes through. And there was a point where they were escalating these processes and actually putting them through and approving them at a much faster rate. But that seems to have dropped off. But the increase of land, claiming land, is actually increased. And so from what I understand, and I'm actually starting to investigate this myself and getting an intuitive feeling on it as well, is when it's approved and these lands belong to go to the Aboriginals of their country, they basically can do what they want with it without government approval, and they can actually go into agreements with foreign entities. They could have them digging, mining on their land and so forth. Looking at your question, where you're worried about foreign entities like China wanting to capitalize on your resources, absolutely. I feel it's happening in all three countries, and I feel like it's going to continue to do that. And I feel it's really interesting how we actually had a Liberal government in power, and that was still being done under the Liberals as well. So you can't really blame one party. But it seems like the one party at the moment is the more left-leaning party that's very aligned to the World Economic Forum policies that are coming out, very aligned to the Paris Accord and the climate agenda. And under this Westminster system, I'm actually doing a slide presentation on this as well. So this is where I'm kind of starting to see some things, connecting the dots, and I'm going to be putting something like that together. Something, yeah, for my members, but also too for the public as well. And so I can see that things that they all seem to be aligned in terms of party policies, and so that's why it seems to be rolling out fairly quickly amongst the three countries, almost simultaneously. And I can see that these policies are happening here in Australia, in New Zealand, and in Canada. Now, I feel New Zealand is very advanced in what's happening here, and I feel like there's something to do with water rights as well. And I feel like they're starting to, I feel like we've got a lot of foreign investors who actually claim stake on our water as well. Whether they can actually do anything if there were some water shortages, I think the government can just swoop in and claim that back. I don't know for sure, though. I don't really understand how the policy works. But in terms of that, I basically agree with your sentiment about the concern around foreign investment, particularly from China coming in, swooping in and basically capitalizing on the resources. And so I feel that Carney is doing very much the same. Now, I feel with New Zealand is backing off from these claims, but I feel like there's going to be some more claims and there's going to be litigated in terms of New Zealand. With Canada, I feel like the Conservative Party is really the work that they're doing behind the scenes is really on multi levels. You've got, what I brought up earlier about the mounted police and the police of China, the memorandum of agreement there. You're talking about land titles. That's basically happening. It's starting to pick up traction here, and also the climate agenda in terms of the Green New Deal and the components coming out of China and so forth. So there is concern about it, and you're right to be concerned about it. My feeling is that some of these policies may be quite advanced, that it may be a little bit tricky to reverse without a big fight. And that's where I see New Zealand is at. That's where I see Canada is heading, and that's where I certainly see Australia is heading as well. But I actually feel if somebody like One Nation will come into power, One Nation would almost be the Trump of Australia, where they would be coming along and trying to do a lot of things, and they would be coming up with a lot of obstacles to try to reverse policies and stop them from reversing those policies. So, yeah, some of these policies, particularly the land title ones, are almost going to be quite entrenched, and it's going to be very tricky to reverse some of them. So let's move on to the next question. Okay, this is from Eating in Pakistan. Hi, Laura. Will there be better time coming for Pakistan or not? Like starting from 2026 or later, will its economy, real estate market, and other areas going to improve? Do you see major conflict between Pakistan versus India, or Pakistan versus Afghanistan, or Pakistan with other countries? I do see it flaring up with India, to be honest. Just made it a bit more descriptive to give you information. Thank you for that. Okay. So what I'm feeling, now I don't really know much about Pakistan, and how the economy is working and how your real estate market and that is working. I feel like like most countries, you've got very underprivileged and very privileged areas. In the areas that are underprivileged, I actually see some things happening there, to be honest. I see some kind of perhaps wild weather events happening there. I'm seeing perhaps some flooding. And I'm not getting my symbolism for earthquake, but I'm seeing some shaking. So there may be some earth tremors happening, but I don't see anything devastating happening. But I'm seeing perhaps some landslides, some movement. I'm seeing movement of water. And yeah, and I do actually see them in the more impoverished areas of that happening, maybe because there's overpopulation in some of those areas. But I do feel Pakistan has a strong economy, but not necessarily in the housing market is what I'm being shown. For some reason, I don't know if it's like overpopulation, but I'm being shown not necessarily in the housing market per se. I think it may be just exclusive to some areas, but not across the board. For 2026, I'm getting that there's going to be a dip in 2026. So if you're going to buy, it might be good that you buy during a dip, but it may not necessarily be good for selling. Yeah. I just got in 2027, I feel they're going to soar a little bit from mid towards the end of 2027. There's going to be a spike, something to do with the economy. There's some kind of wealth production or wealth coming into the country that's going to spike the economy there. Might be good for it. But in terms of Pakistan and India, I do see there's agitation there, but it will be contained. I don't know if there's conflict with the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan, if you do border each other. Yeah, lead to border changes or mass devastation. I don't see mass devastation, but I definitely do see something about border. There'll be some border exchanges. Um, and I'm feeling like Pakistan's going to want to really strengthen and tighten some things. Yeah. I don't know whether you get terrorist attack, but I've just been shown that there may be some bombings that happens with people coming over the border. That's probably why they're going to be wanting to be a bit stricter. And I feel it's coming more from the Afghanistan side, perhaps, rather than the Indian side, if I've got that right. Okay, thanks for your question. I'll just mark that I've answered that. And we'll move on to the next question. This is from Rex. Rex UZ. Will there be major tsunami or catastrophic flooding in Europe and beyond, Bohemia and the Moravia, Czech Republic? Oh, okay. I just got Czech's going to have a massive earthquake, to be honest. I don't know whether you're prone for it, but I do see in the image that I'm getting that it's coming from the top and moving down, and I'm getting that it's more from eastward coming in towards inward from east, not necessarily on the coast, that is more eastward coming in, more inland, but closer to the eastern side, more towards the center, but closer to the eastern side. And I feel it will be close to the epicenter, and I feel like it's moving northward as well. So I don't know what country you're bordering there, but I feel like that country will be possibly affected. I'm getting that it will be a 6+. Yeah. But I don't feel there'll be a great deal of loss of life, to be honest, which is a good thing. And I hope that I'm misreading the symbolisms that I'm getting, because it's never good to actually see what I'm receiving like this. But I do have an obligation to share what I receive, and I do that with respect. Okay, in terms of tsunami, I don't necessarily see tsunami, to be honest. I'm getting something about a possible gas leak because there's some movement of water internally. So I don't know if there'll be bursting of pipes, but I'm seeing some potential gas leak as well. So that could be the ramifications of an earthquake that can cause some kind of movement of water. But I don't see it's going to be catastrophic flooding or a tsunami of sorts. So I hope that that's answered your question. Yeah. Did I just do Andy? That's from Rex. Okay, this is from Andy. Okay, Andy, will the war in Iran restart before or after the World Cup, the soccer World Cup? I just got before. I don't know when the World Cup is, but it's going to happen before. Yeah, it's already starting to flare up as I'd predicted. Now, I did say that in the next 6 months, there's going to be some significant changes. The Trump administration is going to have to push very hard because interested parties, it's interesting where it's some critical information that comes through. My voice changes, so I'm wondering whether that's a caution of how I have to say it. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm feeling interested parties are wanting to actually keep this war alive because it's going to make Trump more unpopular. Trump is going to start to get impatient. Now, what he's trying to do is he's trying to enforce change kind of thing. Without really devastating the country and without losing the support of the actual citizens of Iran, because at the moment, a lot of the citizens of Iran are actually very supportive of the US and what they're actually doing. And even though it's being misreported globally, a lot of the people are actually, a lot of the residents there, citizens, truly want to be free from the regime. And the regime is holding on, but they're holding on because they're being fed to hold on. They are very weakened, is what I'm feeling. They are extremely, extremely weakened. And but for the fact of these other countries supporting them, they would not be able to be almost like a nuisance, a continual nuisance. And that's what it is. It's actually becoming a continual nuisance, a continual problem, to prolong it, to be a thorn in Trump's side. And Trump's going to have to make some devastating decisions. And what I'm seeing that there's going to be some kind of bombings from the air in some serious infrastructure. They're going to have to really shake the place up. And I feel some people will suffer from that, not necessarily in lives, although there may be some. There will be more in terms of, yeah, the living standards. And I feel like the Trump administration is trying to avoid doing that because they're going to be seen as bullies, and they don't want to create a humanitarian problem from that where it's going to really work against them. So they're really working a fine line, and they've got a lot of people against them because there's a lot at stake. And so if they can force him to stay in this longer, they're hoping that he would lose popularity, and they're inclined to lose the midterms. There are a lot of people actually in support of the idea, but they're not idea of Iran not having nuclear, and they're in support of the idea of free Iran. But they will people in the public can turn pretty against him pretty quickly if you're looking at casualties, particularly with casualties with the NEUS, within reason, but also they're looking for an excuse to sort of almost start the new George Floyd type of riot. And I feel that Trump is trying to manage that, and not always so gracefully or graciously, but I feel like he's battling a lot as well, and I feel he will be successful. I feel he's very clever. Him, and he does have very clever people as well that are working with this, but they are working against not just a hidden agenda, but multiple hidden agendas coming in from multiple regions. And I've always likened it to, we have a theme park called Luna Park, and there's something called whack-a-mole where these heads pop up and you've got to try to whack it. Well, that's what he's kind of battling, is playing whack-a-mole a lot. But I feel he's building momentum, and a lot of people he's doing a lot of things that are winning a lot of people over. And it's just how much stamina him and his administration have. And I feel that they will see it through. Absolutely. They've got more to lose than that if they don't. Okay. How will the Iran team get treated in America in terms of the World Cup or any type of Olympics? To be honest, I don't feel that, you've got the players represent the country and represent their sport. I don't feel that they're going to be left out or barred from doing anything. I feel like they will be allowed to compete, but perhaps closely watched for any type of underhanded behavior. But I don't feel that's going to happen, because I feel the athletes would be really there to really represent their sport more than anything else. Okay, next question from Sandra. Excuse me. Okay, from Sandra. Is South Africa going to be isolated from the rest of Africa for the xenophobia attacks against foreigners? What's the future between their relationships? Yeah, I'm getting actually yes for the moment. And I feel like it may potentially escalate there, to be honest, Sandra. I feel it may escalate, and I feel it may actually get worse before it really gets better. And I feel like it may actually last for some time. So, yeah, in terms of segregating them a little bit, Yeah, I feel that potentially they will become a little bit more isolated. Yeah. Yeah, hope that's answered your question. Okay, next question from Mosh Mosh. Hi, Laura. Will Australia enter a recession? And will our government actually do something to increase productivity and slow immigration? Um, so, thank you for loving my program, Mosh Mosh. I actually feel, I feel Australia can enter into a recession and come out of a recession just as fast. So I don't feel like that's going to really be a problem. I feel it's the things around it that are going to be a problem. I don't see it ever reaching a depression. I don't feel it will ever get to that. I don't really feel that it's going to really get to that anywhere because I feel Trump and his administration, in terms of economy, is doing very, very well. And I feel like it's not being reported. And it's not being reported accurately. And it's leaving people and citizens in different countries to believe that there is a problem economically globally. There's not. I actually feel economically globally they actually are doing well. There may be some dips. They may slip in and out of a recession because it's usually, running for a few quarters in a row or something, but it will always get better, I feel. Um, where I'm more concerned about is the Australian government and its perception. I have answered this before in the other video, I think, when I did the live just recently, and also a time before that. I do feel what the current government here in Australia is doing is it is capitalising on the opportunity of what's presented before them in relation to the to the war in Iran. It's not really a war, to be honest. It's some kind of conflict, but it's really reaching the point of continual nuisance. But it's not really a full-on war. They did their immediate bombing. They did their immediate scare tactics. They're losing power, but they do have some mighty people behind them, and they're the ones that are the danger. Um, but it's not going to be anything like a nuclear exchange or anything like that. They're not going to be that silly to risk that because it will be a serious problem if that were to happen. I digress. Anyway, going back to Australia, I feel the Albanese government is actually capitalising on this opportunity and really trying to maximise and push through a lot of policies while they are able to still do that. And they recently put out an ad that they're looking for fundraising for now, leading up to the 2028 2029 elections to raise money to combat One Nation's growing momentum and power. So this is, they're seeing that they're actually starting to get backlash and lose momentum, but they're still going to be pushing and they can't lose it completely. And what they're going to be doing, like I've said before, is they're going to be doing a lot of firefighting. They create the fire and they'll be looking like they put out the fire and they'll be offering rebates and that to make life easier for us. And the creating the fire is really pushing through the policies. So whenever you see things are getting very uncomfortable and there are spikes, it's them pushing forward policies. And whenever you see things settling, that's them calculating behind the scenes and when the next push will be, and then that's them appeasing us with some rebates and making us happy. And there are a lot of people who are happy to get all of this government funding and don't ask where the money's coming from and how much debt they're putting us further into. And so they'll raise taxes here and they'll introduce different policies there and they'll get backlash. And then they'll keep on doing that dance. Ultimately, that dance is going to fail because they will lose it. Then, I said that. I just came out. I said they're going to lose at the next election. Okay, interesting. I've said that without, so that may be a possibility. I will look deeper into that. But the fact that that just came out, I would say, was quite intuitive. And yeah, so that may be a possibility. That may be a possibility. I also feel that Liberal is actually starting to gain a bit of traction as well. They're really working hard behind the scenes to gain a bit of momentum and popularity to get their mojo back type of thing. And so you're going to see that that's going to start to happen. I feel that both parties want to squash One Nation. They're not going to, but yeah. Okay. Okay. Next question. So I'm not sure how long I've been recording for. What I might do is after this question, I might leave it here and just publish this and then come, just so I kind of move through the questions and you're not waiting as long. Excuse me. Let me go back. This is my last question from Lynn Rogerson. There seems to have a large amount of people passing worldwide. Is this a trend going to continue? The vax that most people got a few years ago, is this a driving trend? Um, what I'm seeing is happening worldwide is, I think it's called cardiomyopathy. That's actually been as a result, what they're linking from the COVID vaccine, or there may be some different type of problem to do with the heart as a result. And some young people have actually been dying. Some healthy athletic people have been dying. But I also feel it's not just as a result of the vax. I feel it's a combination of things. I'm going to be mindful of what I say here. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure. But what I'm feeling, yes, there is evidence coming forward that a lot of things that are happening as a result of the COVID vaccine are being brought to the forefront. I feel there will be people being held to account for it. There are investigations, and I feel there are going to be some class action lawsuits as a result. But I feel the people passing globally isn't just in relation to vax, to be honest. I feel there's other areas, and I can't quite pinpoint what they are at this point. Okay. Now, I think this is the last question. Okay, last question from VioricaDoina. Will Romania be forced to participate in the war with Russia? So I just got no. I don't understand why you're saying forced. Are they aligned with Russia? I'm just getting that they're not aligned with Russia and they won't be supporting Russia in any wars. I feel it's time that I start to look into the European Union side of things a little bit as well. I've been doing a lot from the different part of the world, like the UK, North America, so forth. I feel like I need to start to look into the European Union a bit more now. So I will keep this in mind, yeah, to see what else comes of it. But what I'm feeling right now is they don't want to engage in any war. They don't want to be part of any war. They don't want to support any war or participate in any war. And if it's in terms of going to war with Russia, if that's what you're referring to, I see that that is more of a potential of them having a conflict with Russia rather than supporting them, participating in the war with Russia. So I'm not quite sure what you're meaning by that. And that is a possibility. Yeah, I'm just going to have to sort of explore Russia a little bit more because I'm sort of seeing Russia's gone fairly quiet and they're being kept busy. But I am feeling that they're possibly looking at expanding. Yeah. So I will look further into that. Okay, thanks for your question. I'm going to leave this for here for now. I'll upload this one and I'll come back and start answering some more questions and just upload those as I go, just so we don't have one long video, because I've still got quite a few questions left to go and I just want to get them out. And I might do some live as well. Okay, thanks for listening, and stay tuned for part 3 of this of the geopolitical Q&As. Bye for now.